We are live, and I just want to say, give us all a moment here while we have everyone start to file in, and we'll get started with our webinar today. We are really kind of excited to talk about these topics, but I just want to give everyone a moment. Actually, why don't we kind of start in just the sense of we've got two guests here on this particular webcast. I'll dive a little bit deeper into it, but we've got Magali from Opti Digital. Good to see you.
Hello. Good morning to some of you. Good afternoon to the others.
And Alistair Patterson, who's from OneXL. How are you?
Afternoon. I'm good, Rob. Thanks for the kind introduction.
Yeah. I say we start to kind of maybe dive into things. I think we want to be conscious of people's time. And I'll just throw it out to everyone else that we have some research to go through to share with all of you. I think some compelling stuff for us to dive into. But I also want to just make sure that this is to be interactive. So by all means, use the chat. I might save some of the questions for the Q&A at the end, but a good question should not go unanswered. And so I might even put that to our panelists here. So with that, welcome to our webinar of user expectations and ad experiences. We want to talk about what some research and what the key takeaways are for publishers. As I've already introduced, Magali is with Opti Digital and Alistair is with OneXL, and going to give a couple different perspectives on some of what this research has shown us. And this research is really well timed. We are right now, I think this is fair to say that publishers are all seeing issues with lack of traffic from search. And we are also having always downward pressure on CPMs and revenue. I think that's, of course, kind of like while we're all here, we're all looking for what are the key things that we can build in from a strategy and so forth. And that, again, is why Opti Digital did this particular research. So I want to kind of get into these results, and I'm going to look for all of you to help me kind of drive forward with this. Let's talk first about the research, and I'm going to look to the two of you for just your take on this. This is research done by Opti Digital in June, and covers 4 major regions. And I think you've done a pretty good job of breaking things out by age and gender. Magali, is there anything related to this that you want to speak to? And Alistair, how does this look in terms of like your audience?
Well, I mean, what we tried, of course, is to have a relevant set in terms of gender, age, and regions. We've been focusing on some regions that we are very active on in terms of publishers, partnerships, and advertisers. What's interesting is that we start from 18. We could actually start the research earlier now. Thought that it would be, we had to start from somewhere. So we decided 18-year-olds.
I think that makes sense. Alistair, can you talk a little bit about your portfolio of publishers and kind of, again, what that audience mix looks like?
Yes, sure. So for those that don't know, OneXL is a publisher cooperative. It's not a network of predominantly UK, local, regional news publishers. So that includes the likes of NewsQuest, National World, iLift Media, Tyndall, Bayliss, Iconic. The list goes on, but they're all focused on local regional news. So that means that the demographic does tend to be slightly older. But still, this is a reliable enough data set that the research is relevant, and therefore we can't escape what the research says. And I think for the industry as publishers, we need to be wary and understanding of what our users think about ads and think about the journey when they're on our website or websites, depending on your situation. And we have to take it on board as we go through this. We'll obviously talk through some of those key points, but yeah, it's a robust sample size. It's very relevant.
Yeah, I agree. I think that there's a a part where we too often talk without the consumer perspective in some of our decisions. And so I think it's critical we do that. And just, I think one of the biggest headlines in this, and while I think there's a part of this that for many might be kind of what they're expecting, I think it's good to have this kind of backed up with these particular numbers. You know, that 73% of online users access it through mobile devices, and they're on social media, right? And I would just sit there and say, like, again, looking at these two numbers alone, Magali, what are your thoughts in terms of, you know, again, informing publisher strategy?
Mm-hmm. I think what's interesting is to actually understand the journey of the users. So when they land on a publisher website or app, they are going necessarily to compare the user experience with social media, where they have been almost 100% of them at least once during the week. So they probably expect a similar user experience. There is something that we don't say in this slide is, depending on the age group, the social media platform they are connecting to weekly is different. So for the youngest, they are going to necessarily compare more your user experience with what they know on TikTok. And for the older, probably more with Facebook. So it's interesting to actually keep that in mind. So yeah, that's something that maybe if you don't see it on those slides and during this webinar, just think about downloading the report that we will publish afterwards, because it will be there.
Yeah, I think it's very important to understand kind of how they're viewing the world, the digital world, right? And then how you compare to that. You know, also one of the things key to me here is the amount of mobile devices. I'm going to put on you something I know I experience, which is, as a publisher, I tend to look at the desktop version of my site on my laptop and try to make that a beautiful picture. That's not how the user's seeing it, right?
Yeah, definitely. This is raised frequently for us. Like when we talk about the template and the user journey, the first thing you do is load up your laptop. You look at your laptop. You often forget about the mobile experience, which is where the dominant amount of traffic is coming from. I think hopefully by now most people are aware of, in Chrome you can have a mobile view of your site, or a responsive view. And I think it's important as publishers that you try and live your site in that view, and therefore planning that ad experience with that view in mind. And also, like, we look at that 93% engaging with social media. We don't have the data, but I expect that engagement or that session time is a significant amount of time in a single sitting. Whereas I know that lots of our users, the journey time, the session time on our website is normally a couple of minutes, the average. It's not 10, 15, 20 minutes. And therefore, you know, with the content and the ads, they need to be engaging if you want them to stay on the site for longer.
Yeah, Magali, it sounds like you had something you wanted to say there. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I want to say 100% to what, because I think we always make this error of testing a website on when we are at work on a computer on a large screen, and in the end, our users are actually not seeing the website like that. They are actually connecting on a much smaller screen. It's always very important to be conscious of their own user experience. So that's why also we conducted this research, is to actually put ourselves in their shoes and try and understand what they see, what they want. But I think this behavior of us focusing still sometimes on desktop is also because some advertisers have been requesting a lot of desktop traffic, a desktop placement, high impact ones, large ones, and in the end, that's not really where users are anymore. So that's why it took us some time. It took some time to all the publishers, probably in this room, to actually do the switch and think mobile first.
I agree. I mean, it doesn't mean you shouldn't do desktop, because I think of it this way, to Alistair, to your point, when people are on social, they tend to be in this kind of consume mode. When they decide to go from social to a website, it's for a purpose, right? There's a reason. Again, either because it's a utility, they want something specifically from that publisher, or they want a different journey than they're getting on social. Creating that transition, I think, is going to be one of the key things. And again, you need to think about it from a mobile first perspective. However, when you get them on desktop, monetize every way you can. But there is a part where, Magali, I think you're right, that if you're not thinking through your mobile experience first, you're really setting yourself kind of behind. So let's actually ask everyone, and I'd love to just do a kind of a quick survey of, how do users, perceive ads on social platforms. So if we could fire up the survey, I'd love to see and get a gauge of where everyone's thinking. And I would say I would think of this from the consumer version of this, because of course I want my ads on websites that I am making money from. All right, I voted.
Can we vote as well, Rob?
Yes,
please.
We're up to 19 votes so far.
Yeah, and it's off to the side there. So let's give everyone another minute for this. But we're starting to see a pattern here. That we're seeing almost half the people prefer ads on social media. For all the publishers on the call, that is the wrong answer. As a consumer, I get it. I mean, I think, like, why? So actually starting to split as there's more votes. I think there's a little bit, not seeing much difference between the three. So there's probably a general feel about ads overall. But Alistair, how did you vote?
I guiltily voted for prefer ads on social media, but I also think it depends which, as Magali said earlier, which social media you're consuming. And I try not to use social media, but obviously on the commute and occasionally I will, and my go-to is Instagram tends to be the one I tend to go to. So there I find those ads tend to be more easily skippable. So that would be the reason why I say that. However, I would say that on websites, I do think that the ads that I get are normally more applicable to my interests and buying habits of the time, whereas I don't think Instagram necessarily always gets that right, or gets it right less often. But that's subjective. I obviously don't have objective data.
I have a response to that, but Magali, I'd love to hear your thoughts. How did you vote?
Well, I mean, of course I have a bias when I answer. I agree with Alex. I know somehow the dynamics and the machine behind, and I know it's more or less the same. So I tend to see no difference between apps, mobile apps, mobile web, desktop web, and social network. In my opinion, I don't see any difference. I'm a bit like you, Alistair. I'm more on Instagram as well. Yeah, but I think what you said is very true, Rob, that my mindset is different when I click on Instagram than when I go to a news media app, because I'm in a different mindset. When I go to news, I'm more like, okay, I'm gonna get informed. It's a serious business. And when I am connecting to Instagram, it's like, okay, that's entertainment, relax.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course, the way that the ads are impacting me is different. Yeah.
I think all of that, I agree. I will say I did say social, and then I kind of regretted it because one, if I'm ever on Facebook, which I'm on less and less, it is too many ads. But Instagram, Alistair, I have a complete opposite reaction. And the reason I say that is because Instagram has a segment of one, it's me, telling me all the great jackets I can buy, and they are highly efficient. I have to admit, this jacket I bought from an Instagram ad. So I guess it does work. So I can't say that it doesn't. But I need to get more publishers following me around with ads so I can serve those up. Anyway, thanks everyone for kind of waiting. Go ahead, Alice. I didn't want to cut you off. Or let's move on. All right, I think because we're getting into the heart of some of the data here that I would love to dive into. All right, so this is some of the data from the research. Where do you generally find ads? So we can kind of see how that reacts, to what we were discussing. And again, I think you start to see some trends here as well, right? So for everyone but me, you pay less attention to social media ads. I guess I just have a jacket problem. Maybe I could seek some help. And then they're not as relevant. Yeah, I mean, again, I feel like there's a piece here. Magali, I'd love for you to talk about, again, some of the thoughts from this in terms of, where we could go with this as publishers.
Really surprised me was the fact that people, a large portion of people, 31.7%, think that ads are more acceptable or better integrated on social media platforms. And what's making me realize also is that sometimes the border between the ads and the content is not that clear on social media. If you start following a few influencers of whatever topic, then you don't really know whether you are actually seeing a content or an ad. And I think it makes the experience more immersive. So that's probably why this answer. That's what I'm thinking about. Another thing that actually surprised me was that only 9% of users think that ads are better integrated in apps. So here, we don't always have the answer, right? I have two assumptions. The first one is they actually have a few news editorial content apps installed on their smartphone. If they pay for it, they probably don't have ads at all. And if they still see ads, actually, app publishers tend to put a lot of interstitials, and that's probably why we have this answer of, well, it's not that well integrated. So that's where I could see, yeah.
I have my games on my phone, and they all, I definitely would not say apps. There's this countdown thing that they do that it's so it just interrupts the entire process, right? Again, of whatever it is I'm trying to do. I might come back to you, Magali. I might have some more questions for you on this, but Alistair, I'd love your thoughts on what this research tells you.
Yeah, no, I think it's interesting as well that the poll we did as a user group, I know it's not exactly the same question, but it kind of shows a similar kind of trend in that on social media platforms, people tend to be a bit more accepting. So I think it's interesting that we as when we're consumers, we need to also consider that when we're publishing content. And the environment in which you're consuming content, whether it be via the app or via the web, is important because you will get two different experiences, even if it's the same brand. So if you if you consume social media on an app or via their website, which I think is uncommon, you will get a slightly different experience. And a bit like when we're talking about us as publishers, when we talk about desktop versus mobile web, we should be considering that more. And what I also find interesting here is that there's 25%, a quarter of people that think it's the same, which is not too different to our poll internally. And that has surprised me, because I didn't think a quarter of people would think that there's not much of a difference. I thought it would be a bigger chasm than it is.
Yeah. Well, one thought that popped in my mind, it's the first time I'm thinking of this idea, but Magali, it's off something that you kind of said in some of the parts of this, is I feel like when I'm on social media, it is like flipping through a fashion magazine. And there's an aspect of going, I see an ad, I see content, I'm not necessarily, they're kind of all in one thing. Where the lines are not necessarily clear. And keep in mind that they do it at such a scale that they can accept that people are skipping through the ads and flipping through them, right? Like, it's kind of part of that experience. Where when I go to a publisher, especially, also like a local news site, I'm there for the news, and it is a much harder thing to integrate and add into that experience, right? Like, it would be just sitting there going like, and so there was this traffic jam on hold on a second, I want to tell you why you need to buy this. And here's what you need to know on your, hold on, I just want to, like, we're playing a different game.
We
right?
are, for sure.
Right.
It's there is another information which actually is not in that slide that we found out when conducting the research, and I think it's interesting because it's going to highlight these results. Is when you ask people how they are consuming editorial content from their phone, they actually answer for 80% of them, they consume news from an app. So only 20% are going to go to the website, their favorite websites or whatever, and read the news there. Or at least that's what they are conscious. They believe that they are doing it like this for 80% of them. And yeah, of course, I agree with you. I mean, it's for Alistair and his team, it's much more complicated to have an immersive ad experience within regional content. Or it's more blurred when we talk about branded content. In the end, the branded content is more or less like playing the role of an influencer. No, you are a tech media publisher, and you're saying, I've tested this new device and it's amazing, and here is why, and then you create all that content. But for transparency reasons, it's always better to say that it's been sponsored by, and then you give the brand.
Yeah.
And
we have some more. Go, please.
Sorry, Rob. I was just going to say the other, again, this is subjective and it's not on the slide, but I thought it was, I think it's an interesting point, and I'd be interested to know whether other publishers on here have a similar experience to myself. But we find that app businesses, app designers generally are all about engagement and growing volume and numbers, but not necessarily about monetization, the app businesses themselves. Whereas when we talk to website designers and CMS teams, they understand the importance of the ads much more so than the apps. It's not to say that they ignore the user experience, but for me, there's definitely a divergence in kind of the people who work with apps and the people who work with websites. And I think that's hard for publishers who want to grow their revenues and also their audience with apps. I think it's harder through apps than it is through the web.
Yeah, well, I guess because publishers want to protect a very loyal audience also, so we have to take this into consideration.
Yeah, I put it to all the publishers there. If you want to react to Alistair's point, like please weigh in, and also start to queue up your questions. We do have some more data to share. Yeah, I do feel like app is a little bit different again, and people don't use 40, 50 different apps. They tend to generalize around those parts, but there is a piece of it. If you can unlock that, it's very powerful. But there is a piece of that of just trying to make sure that, if someone says to you within the company, let's launch an app to make more money, you have a longer road to get there than you do other means, but there are ways to definitely do that. Let's I'm going to progress as we go through this, just to talk about again that, like, so online, people are doing it on mobile devices, and they're doing it on social. So let's talk about what other things we've learned in this research. Oh wait, I went back. Sorry. There we go. So some new information. What would improve your experience with ads? So again, this was asked of consumers. And lo and behold, people would like to see fewer ads.
What a surprise.
Surprise, surprise. What are some of the takeaways from this particular thing? Magali, do you have any initial thoughts?
Well, I mean, my first takeaway would be that probably there are still too many ads on the site, and too much ad density. And even if we have the Coalition for Better Ads, which is trying to set a maximum 30% of the screen for ads and the rest for the content, looks like users would actually like another balance. So it's tricky, because if you listen to the publisher, they would love always less ads, but to the end user, they would always like less ads. But there is a kind of value exchange proposition that must be respected. No, we want to deliver quality editorial content that is produced by journalists that we have to pay, and with full organization. So it's not realistic. And somehow the value exchange proposition has been, okay, it's great, you can have this content in exchange for seeing ads. So, I mean, what we can listen here is probably improving the ad density, trying to make sure that the ads are as targeted as possible, because we see that 31% would like ads that match better their interest. Then I see no ads inside article, and here it's like, I guess this is a very, very complicated topic. If you look at the global performance of a page view, if you remove all the ads that are on mobile, that are within the content itself, within the article itself, so you have some room as a sticky at the bottom, maybe some room at the top, and that's it. It's not enough. It's not enough to be profitable. So no ads within the article itself is probably something that no publishers could really afford unless they have a subscription model, and it's not a business model, right? But they are very, very profitable placements, and they are also the placements that brands are asking for. So it's a challenge.
But there's an aspect of that if you are in fact going to be putting ads in article, again, to your point, you need to be able to somehow insert that. You had a number of different points, but I want to kind of go a little technical for this particular group. What are some of the ways when you're putting ads in article that you can do it probably better than what you might be doing today?
That's a good question.
That was to Magali. I'm sorry, because I know that this is something. So, Alistair, I'm still holding on you. Magali, did you have some thoughts on things like, height of ad placement and so forth?
I mean, yes. I think in terms of ad placements, In Opti Digital, what we have been focusing on is trying to bring the highest value to both parts of the advertising ecosystem, not only to publishers because we don't believe it works, but also to advertisers. So bringing high impact placements to brands and agencies, and at the same time, bringing the highest level of revenues as possible to publishers. So obviously, our technology is trying to identify and select the best placement to curate them and necessarily what we would recommend is at least to display some sticky placements, especially on mobile, of course. And on that sticky placement, we can have a very high level of user attention. It's adding one impression per page view, which is significant. And maybe more if the user stays longer to actually read the content, they could actually, there could be a refresh, and then you would add two ad impressions per page view. So it has a significant impact.
Yeah, agree. Alistair Starr, you are like raring to go. You had some thoughts here. Please share.
Yeah, sure. So the thing that most surprised me about this slide personally was the lowest one, which is that ads load more quickly. Because for me personally, I find that quite frustrating when an ad is loading slowly, which causes the website to load slowly. But if we look at the 71.42% of respondents say that they leave websites and apps overloaded with ads. I think that's probably the most important stat on this slide. So I don't know how other people here treat their publishers, but with flyby users, so those that come once a month or whatever your technical definition might be for a flyby social user, is we tend to have the highest bid density for those types of users, which kind of, and the reason is because of that, because we know they're going to come and read one page and then go away. But are they going to, if we change the experience, if we A/B tested it and actually gave them a really light experience, a really easy experience, could they convert to maybe a second page view or a third page view where you've essentially doubled or tripled the revenue from that user? Could you encourage them to come more than once a month? Could you convert them into a loyal user? I know it's easy to say these things, but I think having this type of data to hand, it makes you rethink it, makes you look at it again. Could you look at your strategy for how you treat loyal users and flyby users? Is there a different way that it could work for you?
Mm-hmm. Actually, it's funny what you said, Alistair, because it's also surprised me that the fact that only less than 10% say that they would like to improve ads that load too slow. But it's actually contrary to another research that we conducted earlier this year. It said that about 70% of the respondents were saying that they would leave a website if it takes too long to load. So they didn't answer it, but in the end, they would make a decision if the ads take too long to load.
Well, if it's lazy loading, right? So in other words, if the content loads fast enough, they're probably good. They don't care that the ads didn't render, they're kind of moving on. But if there's anything that really does impact, or I actually think, to your point, it is a like a piece of it. If you feel like the site isn't ready for you, I think people tend to go, I will find the same content elsewhere.
Yeah. Good news, I would say, about this slide is that I think there is a trend today. We're seeing it maybe more in Americas than in Europe for now, but of trying to remove MFA, trying to achieve a higher level of quality over quantity, connecting less partners into the auctions, taking care of the user experience and so on, in order to take care of the outcomes for the brand. And I think that when you see that 71% of respondents say that they would leave a website or apps if it's overloaded with ads, actually it makes sense and goes with SPO. It goes with, I guess, a direction of our industry towards more quality. And we're really working on this topic to try to improve the scores of media publishers, so they are valuing better their ad inventory when they talk to brands and when they sell their inventory to SSPs, to DSP, that they don't get throttled. So it's I think it goes all in the same direction.
Yeah. You've made a couple of really big points that are important to me in the way that I think about it. And, I'll just put this out there, right? That your point about the value proposition to the user, right? There's an aspect of this that we have not done enough, in my belief, as quality publishers to sit there and say, we've invested in creating this content, and all we're asking for you is to see the ads and react to the ads and come back, right? And I think that there's a part of that we've chased. I think what you're saying is there's this trend away from MFA. Well, the advertisers no longer want to be part of us chasing this. So if there's less dollars, doing the right thing eventually will pay off. I'm never going to tell anyone to not survive, right? But there is an aspect that, like, you have to start thinking about your brand. And, Alistair, I'd say to you, like, and as someone, by the way, who does the same thing, if I think someone is going to be to the site one page, I do tend to serve them more ads. But what if we challenge that continuously of going, how do we know there'd be one page? Is there a way, like, put more effort into getting them to 2 pages and serve them less ads on the first and more on the second? Like in other words, we are chasing the bottom sometimes when we really should be going, how do we make it so that our average page views go up per user? Again, to your point, easier said than done. But that, to me, is the part of creating loyalty, or why someone should be coming to my site versus any site. And we need to stand out. Users are going away from us because of the experience that we're giving them, and we can get better. And there is hope, by the way. I love Magali's point of there. There's optimism in this. But I just said a whole bunch of things. Please react.
Yeah, I think it's definitely important, and this research shows that, chasing that one page view or chasing 2, 3, getting them to come weekly, monthly, daily. We have to be considerate of the consumer. We have to think of them. It can't always be about the bottom line and the revenue. We have to offer incentives, a better experience. As the numbers here say, if we look at the top 3 website categories with the perceived most ads: entertainment, news, lifestyle, and hobbies. I don't know. I can't see everybody's name on the list who's here, but I think most of us fit into those 3 brackets, and therefore we need to be wary of that, and we will drive people away if we don't adapt and if we don't move forward with the times. There's always new technology within our industry which will help us, but there will always be new technology which will impede our progress with this conundrum. And it is always going to be a conundrum. How many ads can you have to get the revenue, to keep the user engaged, and to provide good content? There isn't a perfect answer. Yeah,
agreed. We have one other piece of data really to share, and then I really want to kind of get to some recommendations. And I also want to encourage people to share their thoughts. What did you see so far in the research? What are your questions that we should, what should we be talking about? Or, anything that, recommendation to a question. How do you, I think that there's a part of this that gets right to what we've been discussing already. So I don't want to necessarily dwell on it, but will people pay? It really goes to, Magali, to your point of just this value exchange, right? Mm-hmm. Of just do you want the ads? Do you want it free and so forth? And what are you seeing here? They don't want to
Yeah.
pay, right?
Yeah. So that's that was a bit the final question in the research. Like, would you pay for accessing the editorial content? And less than 7% say yes. So okay, and so in that case, in the end, they don't mind ads as long as there are not too many. Um, and most of them, they would say, okay, I'm okay if there are more ads, but as long as the content remains free. So what we can do with this, I guess, not all the publishers in this room have premium content which is premium enough and unique enough to manage subscriptions, paid subscriptions, and in the end, well, for 93% of the end users, will have to implement ads in a way that is acceptable to the end user. We have that in mind. One of the things that I'm thinking about here is there are probably some new ad experiences that we can imagine. Earlier this year at Opti Digital, we released a new ad experience, which are rewarded ads. So inspired by the in-app gaming experience, where you actually get to see an ad for a few seconds in order to go to a next level or to keep playing. Well, here, what we can do is triggering a message as soon as the user starts engaging with the content and scrolling to read the article. They are able to see the beginning of the article, but at some point we tell them, do you want to see the rest of the article? And if they click on yes, they would actually see an ad for a few seconds, and that unlocks all the article. And that's a way to actually have less ads, because you may have just one larger ad, the size of a full screen one that takes over, with a countdown that you can skip, you can close it, and you get a very high CPM as a publisher. The brand gets a high impact placement that has been selected by the end user. They wanted to read the article, so they agreed to see this ad, instead of displaying, maybe if the end user keeps scrolling, some very low value ad placement that would be below the fold, and that may be displayed or not depending on how the user scrolls. So there are some ad experiences that we can try, and where we have to try, right, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think I would love to see how that performs. I'd love to see. I mean, again, it's a really interesting idea. Different content, different publishers. You could just see where there would be different ways to do that. But it is in effect a way of saying, again, to what I was saying before, there's a value proposition. Happy to show you this article without you having to pay or sign up, but you do need to see an ad. So I have to see. Let's have this conversation sometime, and I want to hear how that's progressing. I think that could be interesting. Alistair, any points?
The overriding point for me here is people are happy with ads. They'd rather have ads than pay. Not everybody. And therefore, as publishers, I think you're better off having more than one option. A bit like what Magali's just talked about there, and because there are different versions of those options. And if you can create a product for a user who doesn't want ads versus a user who's willing to have some or lots, then I think you should use that to your advantage. But you obviously are going to need to collect data and understand the data, interrogate the data to deliver that successfully.
Yeah. Well, let's start to bring it home. I think for each of us, we've looked at this data and we've been thinking about it and wanted to kind of conclude with some recommendations. And I'm going to go, Magali, with you. What are some of the talk to your? Oh no, actually, this is Alistair's point.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I got the order wrong. Alistair,
Yeah,
please.
that's all right. So expanded on that. What I was just talking about, and providing that different ad experience. If you can have a paid experience, obviously in the UK, and I think in Europe, there's a growing trend of consent or pay, which isn't as developed in other places around the world. You could also have a paid experience, so just pay, you get no ads, or potentially if you log in or you subscribe to our newsletter or something like that, some sort of value exchange, you can have an ad-like experience. Or as Magali will go on in a bit, talking about kind of that rewarded experience. But I think for me, it's that balance, and you need to have the data to know whether you're profitable with experience A, B, or C, or any other option, and you should test it if you've got enough users, enough page views, or different domains, depending on your setup as a publisher. Try and test it, work out which options are working for you.
Yeah,
and then
with you.
Sorry, I was just gonna mention about the carousel format that Opti Digital have, and if anyone's not seen it, where you can kind of click through ads and choose different ads as the user, and I've seen other providers using it as well, more so with video, but as a display format, it's a good format.
Magali, please.
Thanks. Yeah, one thing that I would say, so going back to the topic of the ad speed and how we can also work on protecting the UX. I mean, we have not talked about that, but it was understood from the very first slide when we said that most of web publishers are commenting now that they have lost a lot of audience from organic search, because that now we have the AI provided answers. And one of the things that we have to do, in my opinion, is to actually protect the user experience, protect the media brand, so then we can protect what is left from SEO traffic, respecting what we know is important for Google algorithms. And I know it's difficult, and I think that's a bit of a trend also that we're observing from Opti Digital here is it's difficult to actually do iterative work and release an optimization and see if it has worked and measure really well to make sure that you have the relevant results. And this nimbleness may be brought by a partner. So it could be digital, it could be some other companies on the market, but having this nimbleness to actually A/B test different things, different layouts, different messages, trying to think about ad revenue optimizations from the upper funnel to the lower, right? Like what can I do that has the highest impact in terms of revenue? Is probably working on, if you are in Europe, on the consent capture, and then on the ad layout and where you place your ads, where do you where you place your ads, but in a way that they have an impact, but they are lazy loaded and then they are refreshed. And all this is going to have a very tremendous impact on your revenue, more than connecting or disconnecting a partner in the auctions in the end. So trying to have this drill down strategy. And in my opinion, it's very important to have tools to do that. And most of the time when we work with publishers, they are overwhelmed. They have a very long to-do list. Um, Not mentioning about the legal queue, but here I'm not more talking about technical feasibilities, right? There are no developers available to do updates. And when you work with a platform like the one that we provide, which is Ad Manager Hub, which is a wrapper, SaaS or managed, then you can do by yourself all the changes that you want, all the tests, and and measure the results at the end per geo, per device, and make decisions and improve. And I think this is my recommendation.
Yeah.
Having the tool to have that nimbleness and to be able to do tests.
I'm going to build off something that you just said. Everyone's heard me talk to this thing about publishers as brands, and you just touched on it. I'm going to go different direction than I was going to necessarily go off what you just said. Publishers are under economic pressure. And so what should you focus on? What should you not focus on? Building your own tech, to me, and the level of that is just no longer an area. Publishers need partners. You cannot do all these things alone. You need to work with others to build the best solutions. The part you do need to concentrate on your own is your brand as a publisher. That's where you should be putting your energy so that you are creating that connection with your audience so they come back and they're either seeing the ads or they're paying or whatever those models are. Again, each site should be and will be different, but there is a part of it of going like, one of the things that I love about what I get to do is there's some aspect of sharing what partners are bringing what to the table and the things to try, and always be testing, but always be thinking of the user as you experiment and build your brand. And again, if you made soap, you did not make content, you made soap, you wouldn't go and put it in a warehouse and wait for people to find it. You would go out and make sure people saw your product. Publishing has been built on the idea that people come to us. And we just showed people are not going to come to you unless you make it worth their while. And so in one sense, for that sounding all negative, there is an aspect of optimism of going, you have to control your own destiny now. And again, what does that mean? Build your brand, not necessarily the technology, find the partners to help you.
Yeah, agreed.
So I think that somewhat concludes. I do have one piece of news in terms of something that's coming up, but if anyone does have any questions or response to what was said, now would be the time to speak up. Also open to anyone, Alistair or Magali, any last thoughts in terms of things, but that was kind of what we were supposed to do there. But if there's anything else you'd like to add.
There was one thing that I wanted to react on, and then I forgot, and it's coming back now.
Great.
We talked about ad density and how users actually would like less ads per page. And we also discussed about probably having a different layout for I think you called flyby users, which are just coming once and then they leave and they are not loyal to you, to your brand. There is one thing that we released this year, and I really like it, and I spend a lot of time on it with our publishers, is actually reporting on ad density per page and at the URL level. So being able to actually know how many ads are really delivered per URL, and that in real time, and to be able to actually also filter by traffic source. So you could actually know that you have that article that is getting traction on Discover, and be able to realize in real time that you only have 2 ads delivered per page view, and then look at the site, understand what's going on, and probably make the article a bit longer, to actually add more ads per page view, and to surf on that wave and on that traction. So I think that's pretty cool, and I really think that it's a game changer.
Yeah, I like it. I think, again, it's almost at the user level of these relationships, users are okay with ads when they're relevant and match their interests. These ads are premium, well targeted. Yeah, it's true. And I feel like users they know this, but they don't know to the extent to which they can help with that experience, right? There's an aspect of this of just going like, again, why would you share any information with a publisher? More relevant ads. Like there's a bit of a piece to that I think could be really interesting.
Well, you could imagine an ecosystem like on TikTok where users can actually say, I like this ad or I don't.
Right. I do want to, before the top of the hour, make sure that we hit on the fact that there is going to be another session coming up in October 22nd. It'll be Magali and Ali, if you know Ali. These two, I love talking with the two of you. You'll have your different takes on things. And this is how Demand Hub delivers premium value. That'll be on October 22nd.
Yeah, it's going to be more of a product presentation thing. At Opti Digital, we do several things, several activities on the publisher side, on the brand side, and we are going to present Demand Hub, which is our way to curate inventory, to bring premium deals to from brands directly to publishers, and trying to innovate in the format, having a different user experience, something which is actually inspired by social media, because we know that users think that the ads on social media are better. And we will present this with Oli in October. So feel free to log in and sign up.
Alistair, any last thoughts or questions?
My last thought would be to remember your user and their experience. So that mobile lens, whether that be web or app, and remember that if they come once, they could come again.
Agreed. Yeah. And so, again, this is a topic I'm always open to. And so by all means, feel free to reach out to me, Alistair as well, Magali. These are the things that we talk about whenever we get a chance, is trying to solve this, really for ourselves as well as for other publishers. I think we're all trying to solve a problem that we all somewhat share. Magali, you're muted. Go ahead.
No, I was talking to Maeva, who's in front of me.
Sorry. Okay. Anyway, so with that,
reach out. We're happy to just jump on a call and share ideas and see whether we are in a position to be able to help.
Yeah, appreciate it. Awesome. Everyone, thank you for joining our time today, and thanks Opti Digital for putting together this content, and as well as putting this together. Alistair, thank you for joining and adding your perspective, and thanks everyone. And let's keep the conversation going. I hope there were some good ideas here to hopefully build from. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Magali. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.